The Indianapolis 500 boasts one of the largest live audiences of any event in the world and has energy and fanfare that is nothing short of electric. With all the attention and anticipation of an event like this, expectations run high, and you need a bit of planning to make sure that those expectations are met. The man behind this operation is Doug Boles, president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In part one with Doug, we discussed the history of the racetrack and the most challenging parts of organizing an event like the 500. In part two, we continue discussing the Indy 500 with Doug as he answers questions like how technology has changed the 500 experience, how the event is embracing sustainability, and what Doug wants his Indy legacy to be. We close in regular rapid-fire style, where you'll hear if he passes driver's test on the first try, his best speeding ticket story, and some first ever revealed facts about the man behind the Indy 500. I'm your host, Ed Bernardin, and let's jump into part two with Doug Boles. You mentioned early on technology. So let's, and that was one of the initial goals for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to develop technology. The winner of the first 500 was the first use of the rear view mirror. Mm-hmm. So that was quite significant. What do you think over all the years is probably one of the most significant technology advancements that came from racing at the Speedway?
There's been so many. Obviously, we go back to that rear view mirror as a really important moment. But you think about the early days. I mean, everything that was on a car back then was the foundation of the cars we drive today. But I think that over the course of our history, the tire technology that Goodyear and Firestone really were the two, but now it's been Firestone for the last 25 years. The technology that the tire manufacturer learns by competing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway translates directly to what we do, on what you have on your road car. So that Firestone relationship, I think, is one that's probably benefited us a lot more than we give it credit for. Even some of the small things that we're doing on the sustainability side right now, I think are really important, that we're learning technology. Firestone, for example, has this plant that they grow in southern Arizona called Waiuli, and they've learned how to make rubber out of that. So we've got this sustainable rubber through the tires. So that's probably one of them. From a safety standpoint, this is less about fans, but more about racing across the globe. The safer barrier, which is that steel wall that's in front of the concrete barrier, was designed through the University of Nebraska and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tony George believed that he needed to invest alongside the University of Nebraska when nobody else did. And today it's used everywhere. NASCAR uses it, Formula One uses it. We have saved countless injuries, reduced countless injuries across motorsport, no matter what form it is, because of the safer wall. That's probably one of the biggest safety innovations that's come from the Speedway believing in it 25 years ago to get it to where it is today. And currently, Honda and Chevy running here, testing new technology through the engine platforms here. All that stuff transfers to the cars. But over the long haul, I would say our tire manufacturer involvement here is probably the thing that's been the best for us across what we do when we get out every morning and start our car up and don't even think about the tires and why they last and why they stop and why they can go through the rain. And that's the things that those folks like Firestone learn in racing.
It's interesting because I did ask Mario that exact same question, and he said tires.
He did say tires?
Yes, he did. And I think you had hit the reason is when we get in our car, we never think about the tires. You hardly ever even worry about flats and those types of things anymore. So I guess that's the proof, right? Technology flows both ways. And you got 350,000 people sitting in this venue. How has technology changed the experience that you have during any event, the Indianapolis 500, any race at the Speedway?
Well, we talked about it earlier. I mean, the technology, when you think about what's in your phone, in your hand, the ability to communicate with a customer real time through either social media platforms or email or however that is, that has changed the way that we can communicate to our customers. giving customers the opportunity to have a digital ticket versus a paper ticket. Although I'm old school, I like the paper ticket for the Indianapolis 500, and so do 90% of our fans. We give them the option, and 90% take the paper ticket. But that communication and opportunity for the customer for sure. So NTT, who is the IndyCar Series partner, is a partner here as well. And through their technology, sort of that smart city technology, we're beginning to learn how to predict gate lines so that we can direct people from one gate to another. We're able to predict when a parking lot's going to fill up. We're able to predict where we are in a concession stand so that we can staff correctly. Seeing gate real time as people come through the gates and understand how many people are in the venue. And over a course of several years, getting to see how our customers react. We can staff more appropriately to make sure that we have the right gates open and the number of people at gates to make the customer experience better. All of those things make life a bunch easier here for us. The technology with even security, the way now that we can scan a person coming in through our open gate metal detectors. The technology is now such that you can bring your cooler in through those gates. And as long as you don't have something you shouldn't have in that cooler, you're going to be able to walk right through. That technology, 2 or 3 years ago wasn't even available. You had to open somebody's cooler up and check it. So technology changes every single year for us, and we continue to try and stay on the front edge of that because it does make the customer experience better, also makes customers safer, and makes us staff more appropriately and more efficiently.
Well, it's like the tires. You don't notice, wow, it didn't take us long to get into the race this year. It's that type of thing. There's also if you want to say the streaming or the TV audience for the race. And, there's talk, virtual reality, augmented reality, all sorts of things, trying to bring the experience of the driver into the living room. Do you see a future for that type of technology in some way with maybe at the venue or people that are watching the race on TV?
Yeah, I do think as you watch, you're trying to find ways to give customers or fans at home the experience to sort of feel what's it like to be in the car, what's it like to even be at the venue if you're not at the venue. And there are those pieces of technology that continue to evolve. And we've tried some of them the last couple of years with Verizon. We've put cameras around the racetrack that our fans could go in and look through those cameras and move those cameras around and see different views. So we are trying to give those customers an opportunity to do that. And as technology changes, I'm sure there will be a day, probably not too far from now, where there is the VR opportunity to be at the speedway while the race is going on and see whatever the broadcaster has, but do it in a way like you feel like that you're there. It's hard to believe how quick it changes and the opportunities we have. And like I said, we continue to look at all of those ways to make the customer experience better. And the closer you can get a customer to the brand, to the event, even if they're not here, the more likely you are probably to get them to say, you know what, I want to go experience that in real life at some point in time. So we do really try and focus on how are we encouraging that person that's home watching on the stream or watching with our broadcast partner, encourage them to try the speedway out if they haven't done it.
Well, maybe they could be sitting in a simulator like you've got there and actually feeling how the Connor Daly is turning the wheel or whatever it might be. Who knows?
100%. So my sim that's over my shoulder here is a static sim, but I was at the thermal race that we had for the IndyCar Series, and there's a group there that's created a sim where you actually strap in and you're feeling the forces and the G's that the drivers are feeling as you're braking, the car's moving forward. So the technology is getting to be there where you can experience what it's like to be in a race car and feel like you're actually driving that race car without the risk of the safety side of things. And then the problem of, when you damage your race car, it's an expensive thing. So there are becoming more and more opportunities for the ordinary fan like you and I to experience what Connor or Joseph Newgarden or any of those guys experience when they strap in an IndyCar.
You mentioned the paper ticket. So I get my paper tickets and I keep them. But you know what? When I go into the track, I use the digital one because it's more convenient. And and I think you may have said this, modern but old, right? There's something that attracts you about the tradition, I guess, but yet we want the modern part. How do you, the convenience that comes with modern, how do you balance that?
So you've touched on maybe one of the bigger challenges that this organization has, which is how do you balance the history and tradition and this is what always happens at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the new. The things that are going to appeal to the younger customer, the conveniences that a new stadium has that a 115-year-old stadium doesn't have. So trying to figure out how do you balance that, and especially with respect to the Indy 500. With respect to some of our other races, it's a little less difficult. But for the 500, it is definitely a challenge. You want customers to have the convenience of what technology allows, but you also don't want to change what makes the 500 so special. And like you, a lot of customers want that paper ticket because that is what they collect. It's what sits on their desk. It's the things that mean so much to them. It's that physical ability to hold that memory in your hand, where the digital doesn't do that. But the convenience of digital, to have it on your phone to go right through, is something that people want as well. So trying to balance that is definitely a challenge for us. Pretty committed to keeping those paper tickets for the Indy 500 here. I'm a massive Indy 500 ticket collector from way back in the day up through current day. And there's just something special about having an Indy 500 ticket in your hand. And you want it to feel like at some level when you come here, and especially if you're bringing somebody new or you're bringing a new family member, you want to be able to sit in the seat and go, this is where I sat with your grandpa, and this is what it really felt like. But at the same time, you got to bring in some of those modern amenities to make sure that that young person you brought says, okay, yeah, this is cool, but I need to do X, Y, and Z too. So it's a balancing act for us for sure.
Well, I liked your idea about using technology to get in and out of the track as fast as you can. That's the worst part, right? Because once you're there, hey, that's when the tradition really, really matters. You mentioned sustainability, and now we've got 100% renewable race fuel in IndyCar. There's all sorts of things going on at the Speedway when it comes to recycling and things that will impact sustainability. What does one do in such a large venue? What are the top things you try and address? Like what's the pecking order here of what you got to do to make a facility like this more sustainable?
It's a challenge, and I will transparently tell you, I was probably one of the roadblocks in beginning to make some of those investments in sustainability, because I felt like when you get 350,000 people at the same place at the same time for 6 or 7 hours, it's really hard to keep up with garbage, let alone how do you split the aluminum cans and all the recyclable stuff from the trash. And then when you get those cans, or that say recyclable, you still then have to take them out, spread them out, and really filter through, because oftentimes they get contaminated with things that aren't recyclable, and then you can't take it. So it's a massive process that I don't think people, it's not just a matter of take that trash bag out and send it to the recycle bin. It's take that trash bag out, open it up, and have somebody really literally pick through it to make sure that the recycled stuff's recycled. I didn't believe that our fans would adopt it. And we ended up a few years ago trying it. I think 2021 was the first year that we really had recycled cans out there. And I couldn't believe the number of people, especially people my age or older, who were saying, thank you for making recyclable opportunities for your fans here at the Speedway. So we started simple, just being able to figure out how do you recycle cans that either you bought here or that you brought in your cooler. And we've had unbelievable participation from our fans. In fact, the venue looks cleaner because people are taking pride in it and really helping us take care of it. So just getting to that point was a big deal. And now we've expanded. Obviously, you talked a little bit about the fuel that the cars have, the renewable fuel. We have a station here that actually charges semi-tractors, and all of our tires that Firestone brings in are brought in through battery-powered transporters, which is kind of a cool story. And they can recharge here and then go on. We've got a solar farm here that we put in 2014. That's about 70 acres of property that we couldn't use otherwise. So we're producing a massive amount of megawatts that goes back to the grid every year on property that otherwise was just going to be weeds because you couldn't really use it for anything else. So we're continuing little things, thinking about our food, composting our food, working with all of our vendors to have recyclable materials, whether it's a bag when you buy something from our merch store, or whether it's utensils that you might get with a hamburger. So we're trying to do everything we can to make a difference. And then we allow our customers, when they renew, to check a little box and offset their carbon footprint if they're traveling from a long way. So it's amazing how race fans have adopted what I would have told you they weren't going to adopt 3 or 4 years ago.
Your stepson, Connor Daly, and you mentioned earlier that you're a longtime AJ Foyt fan. If AJ was racing Connor, who would you be cheering for?
Well, I'd want it to be a really great race, and I'd want Connor to pass him on the last lap of the last corner of the last lap. I mean, I would want AJ to do really, really well until right at the very end of it. Connor is my favorite IndyCar driver for sure, and it's an interesting balancing act when you're the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Can't have favorites, right?
They say you can't, but I gotta be. He's my favorite. It's just the way it is. But people say to me, "Who would you want to win the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in terms of if from your president's standpoint, and I start out and I say, somebody like Marco Andretti winning the Indy 500, because an Andretti winning would be massively huge. Somebody like Tony Kanaan winning when Tony was running, because he was one of our favorites. Ed Carpenter, another local who's a favorite here. And even Connor is one of those ones, because if you go back to the video when he took the lead for the first time in the Indy 500, this place erupted, because I knew, especially our fans that live here. Connor grew up here. His dad drove the Indy 500. It's really what he's all about. So he would be another great storyline for us. So I'm always cheering for him, but I'm pretty excited about whoever wins the Indy 500. That it's a great opportunity to work with those folks. Joseph Newgarden's been a great champion. We've had fun working together. One of my highlights in working here at the Speedway was on the roof of the Pagoda in 2022. I went in to check. I went up just to check on Roger, because Roger watches from up there to make sure that he was okay. And as we were standing up there, Connor actually took the lead of the Indy 500, and to be able to high five the Penske gang that Roger had taken the lead was kind of a cool moment, or that Connor taking the lead was a pretty cool moment for me, just to see that. But, he's my favorite race car driver. There's a lot of them. I could tell you why they should win the Indy 500. My heart obviously is with Connor.
And that was like that great moment you talked about. There's always drama and great moments in racing, and Formula One has this series, Drive to Survive, and it's the maximum in racing drama. But the Indianapolis Motor Speedway hosted the F1 championship from 2000 to 2007. How do you think that impacted the legacy of the Speedway, those years hosting the Formula One?
Yeah, so we hosted as you said, the U.S. Grand Prix, 8 races starting in 2000 and ending in 2007. I think it's appropriate that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has history with the U.S. Grand Prix in the United States. I mean, there's a handful of really, really great, iconic racetracks in America, and obviously, this is definitely one of those. And having been able to host the U.S. Grand Prix, and at the time, that first race, it was the largest attended Formula One race ever. 200,000 plus people on property for that first race in 2000, and then 2001 with 9/11 and all the things that had happened in 2001 and 2002, and continuing to celebrate America here with the U.S. Grand Prix, I think was really special. Our road course has been modified a little bit since those F1 days, but pretty much a lot of it is what the Formula One drivers drove. So it is an FIA Grade 1 racetrack still to this day. There's only a couple of those tracks in the U.S. COTA obviously is one of them, where U.S. Grand Prix, or where they race in Texas, in Austin. So I do think it helps our legacy to know that this track hosted the U.S. Grand Prix, and then we hosted MotoGP for several years after that. So having had MotoGP here as well, I do think sets us apart from a lot of the other racetracks. We're not just the Indianapolis 500, but we have history with our Brickyard 400, and then with MotoGP and Formula One.
Has there been any thought or dialogue with Formula One leadership about possibly bringing it back to the Speedway?
So we had dialogue with Liberty Media in 2020, when the world was trying to figure out how to go racing again. And a lot of the venues where Formula One was going to run were in countries where they just weren't going to be able to run. So we talked to them about the potential of being a fill-in race for them to make sure that they got their schedule done. That ultimately didn't pan out. And we talked a little bit about 2021 as well. And again, for a variety of reasons, mostly financial, to be really transparent. Most of the venues where Formula One goes, they get significant support from countries' tourism bureaus. So they don't have to make a P&L work. Where for us, in order to give Formula One the amount of money that they want to come run somewhere, for us, you can't make that up in ticket sales. So it's a bit of a challenge. We have a dialogue with them quite regularly right now. We go down to the Miami Grand Prix and check in there. We take care of any of their guests if they've got somebody that's interested in the Indy 500. I think one of the great things about motorsport at the highest level across the board, whether it's IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One, WEC, IMSA, we all try and communicate and take care of each other, because to the extent that the whole of motorsports is rising, it's good for all of us.
So how do you take advantage then? So with like the popularity of Drive to Survive, can you leverage that in some way, you think, at the Speedway and in IndyCar?
Well, I think absolutely. If somebody's watching a documentary like Drive to Survive, or frankly, our 100 Days to Indy program we did last year and we're going to do again this year. And NASCAR just did a a six episode series of their championship last year. I mean, I think all of those things are doors, front doors, gateways to get people to explore motorsport. And if you're a Formula One Drive to Survive fan and you live in outside of Iowa, there's not a Formula One race there, but there is an IndyCar race that comes there, and it's close. So I do think all of those things give people an opportunity to say, I can't see an F1 race, but I can go see an IndyCar race. I can't see an IndyCar race, but I can go see an IMSA race or a NASCAR race. I mean, I think all of those things are important for all of us. There is a competition side a little bit among all of us, but I think over the last decade or so, it's more of, yeah, we compete, but at the same time, we need all of us to be successful because that means that the sport overall is successful.
So do you think you'd enjoy being a Netflix star if they, come in and film you there on your simulator or whatever it might be?
I don't think I'm controversial enough or big personality enough to do that. I mean, when you watch some of those, they're pretty crazy. And, I'm pretty happy being a Hoosier from Indiana and just being able to represent the fans and not have to worry about some of the things that, I'm not flying in on a helicopter and have my staff all worried that I'm going to show up in a minute, make sure everything's exactly perfect. I'd rather be the guy that's got his sleeves rolled up and helping the staff get set up than the guy they're getting set up for.
Yeah, I don't know how exciting that would be, but I'm sure you probably figure out a way to do it. Right? Let's talk a little bit about sort of the future. So we're finish up here talking a little bit about where do you think you're looking at the Speedway? You said as soon as one race is over, you're thinking about the next one. You got these calls that you're getting from people, 10 calls a night over a period of a year. How do you think the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as a venue is going to evolve over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it goes back to the conversation we had earlier on balancing of what makes us different and special, but what makes us stay true to our DNA and stay true to the ability to attract that new fan who has maybe a slightly different interest. So as we start looking at things, we do know technology is super important. So how do you make sure that technology is part of what's going on in racing? Those cars that we run in the Indy 500 are essentially rolling computers, everything that moves from static state. There's some of it they're seeing real time. The rest of it they're downloading when those cars come in. But how are we translating that technology that's in those cars to what we're seeing today? How are we making sure that the experience at the venue is the experience that folks expect these days when they go to a concert or another sporting event? Those are the things that we sort of have to grapple with. Then in terms of the event itself and the product on the track, I get the question all the time of when's it going to be AI driven, or when are you going to go to an all electric car? And, those are things that I think we have to continue to stay in touch with our automotive manufacturers, because as the automotive manufacturers go is likely where racing goes. We're going to follow those manufacturers and what they feel like is the thing that sells in the showroom. That's still going to be a piece of that. So I think you have to, at some point in time, there's definitely a change there. The old guy in me is like, I don't want to ever get rid of the internal combustion engine, just the joy that you have of seeing, smelling, hearing, all those things. The electric side, you don't hear it. So to me, there's those things like, okay, how's that going to ultimately work? I just think the biggest thing is you just have to have an open mind and be able to work alongside the people that are smarter than you in the industry, or where's the industry going, and then be able to continue to make those adjustments to make sure that we're staying relevant across those folks, across our new fan. But we can't ever forget what got us here, and that's that group of fans that expects the tradition, the pomp and circumstance, and everything that leads up to the race. The last thing I want to do is do what Coke did and take classic Coke and turn it into a new Coke. I don't want to take classic Indianapolis Motor Speedway and turn it into new Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have to do it in a subtle
and then come back to the classic Speedway after that, right? A couple of years later, when someday you'll retire, might be way into the future. And so what do you want people to say? It was Doug Boles that did that. Yeah. What's your legacy? What do you want people to remember about you? When it's 200 years that the Speedway has been around, they'll say, that's happened during the Doug Boles years. What is it? What do you think that's going to be? Or what would you like it to be?
I don't know. I've not really thought about that. I think, I hope that our fans feel like they have a voice inside the walls of Penske Entertainment. Obviously, they have one with Roger. Roger's a massive fan as well as the owner of the series and the Speedway. But for me, I really started out in this position wanting to be somebody or a place where if a fan had a complaint or wanted to tell a story, that there was some pair of ears at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was going to listen to them. And even if they couldn't fix what they wanted fixed or change what they want to change, at least heard them out. So for me, I think that's the most important thing. It's just continuing to be sort of that outlet for our customers to say, hey, I love this, or I didn't like this. Like I said, whether we're able to fix that or not, at least somebody that truly listened to them and understood why it was important to them.
Doug, I want to thank you for joining us on the Future Car Podcast.
Well, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. You asked some questions I haven't ever had to answer, and thank you.
We got to challenge you, right? We had to challenge
you.
Now, the big challenge is yet to come. We have our final little segment we call Rapid Fire.
Uh-oh.
So we're going to ask you some quick little questions, fun questions. If it sounds like it's something you want to keep talking about, we can do it. Are you ready to go?
I'll try it. Let's go.
All right. What was the first car you ever owned? First car owned or driven? Either one.
Well, not first I driven. First I owned, I was a 1968 British Racing Green Mustang notchback Mustang with a 302 in it.
Did you pass your driver's test on the first try?
100%. And unlike young kids these days, I couldn't wait to turn 16 so my dad could take me to the license branch so I could pass that test and drive on my own.
Have you ever had a speeding ticket? I'm sure the answer has got to be yes.
Boy.
No race driver has not had a speeding ticket.
Too many, but I have not had one. I shouldn't say this. I have not had one since 2009, but yes, I've had quite a few speeding tickets in my life.
So tell us your best speeding ticket story.
So in Indiana, if you get too many points on your license, you have to go to defensive driving. And I must have been in college, maybe just out of college, so early 20s. And I had gone to downtown Indianapolis to take defensive driving, and I took my defensive driving class, got my defensive driving certificate that I passed it, which means they take some points off your license. I'm driving home, maybe 2 miles from where I just had the defensive driving class, where the Indianapolis Zoo is currently today, and a nice police officer and his motorcycle police officer with his radar gun pulled me over, and I got my first ticket within 10 minutes after passing defensive driving.
Were you paying attention in that course?
I paid attention in terms of the course, but my right foot never really followed some of those rules.
That's why you were successful racing Formula Vs, I guess, right? And Formula Fords.
Right.
What's the fastest you've ever driven a regular car on a normal road? Fastest you've ever driven on a normal road when you didn't get a ticket?
Probably too fast. Christmas Day, 1988, 140 miles an hour.
Oh, wow. Were you late for a Christmas dinner?
No, I was just not really smart as a young adult. I did wear my
And
seatbelt.
what age is that? Like 42 or what age were you thinking? I said, what age is that when you say young adult? 42?
No, it was Christmas Day, 1988, so I would have been 22.
Oh, okay. All right. So you don't do that anymore.
I do not do that anymore.
We do not recommend anyone go 140 miles per hour. That's for sure.
Yes.
Okay. So someday there's going to be autonomous cars everywhere. And when you're in the autonomous car, you don't have to worry about driving. And so we call it a living room on wheels, right? So you've got a 5-hour trip, say, from, I don't know, maybe you're going from Indianapolis to Detroit or something like that. You can have anything you want inside this autonomous car. What do you want in your living room on wheels for that 4 or 5 hour drive?
Some great speakers and some really, really good music. And for me, it's that's part of the car experience is just traveling down the road and listening to music. So for me, it would absolutely have to have a pretty good sound system and some great music.
Just kick back and listen to some tunes there.
You know, I'm such an old school guy. You know, I want to drive a manual. I'm struggling now that nobody has manuals anymore. I'm gonna struggle in that living room on wheels. So the music's gonna need to be pretty loud to keep me entertained, I think.
What's your favorite band?
Oh my God, I'm so eclectic across the board with favorite bands, and it's changed over time for me. I don't even know if I can tell you a favorite band. You know, I didn't used to like the Rolling Stones. We had a Rolling Stones concert here in 2015 and just really fell in love with the history of the Stones. So listening to that, Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks, that kind of era, probably the Foo Fighters, if you're trying to get a little younger, are pretty big for me. So I'm just pretty eclectic. I love country music. It's pretty much anything for me.
If you could have on that 5-hour car ride anybody to join you that's ever lived, alive today or has ever lived, who would you pick? You have to turn the music off and now you're going to be hanging out. Or maybe you could both hang out and listen to music if you want. But who would you want there with you?
I would love an opportunity to talk to Ronald Reagan.
To Ronald Reagan. All right. What would you ask him?
I just, you read so much about him, and I've read a lot about him, and obviously he was alive when he was president, but his life story, how he got from the beginning through his days as an actor, sort of changing political parties over the course of his career to being president of the United States in a very tumultuous, difficult time. It would just be interesting to hear his story from him instead of the things you've read. I just would love to. And probably if I knew I was going to do that, I'd go back through a lot of the things I read and make sure I wrote down some good questions that I've had in some of those many books that I've read and marked up.
I never thought about Ronald Reagan like that. Sort of like you, right? Journalist to lawyer to race car person to president of Speedway Museum, right? What do you think? Are there any like secret items or rooms or something in that museum? Secret items that no one has ever seen that are sitting in a back room somewhere. Is there anything you could tell us about?
Well, everybody knew about the basement that was in the museum, which was basically a big garage where they stored the cars that weren't on the floor. And it was powerful just because you got a chance to see all those cars in one spot. But the amount of trophies, historic photos, historic paintings, things that they just don't have a place to display that have amazing stories behind them is pretty mind-blowing. And when you have an opportunity, especially now that they're going through the renovation of the museum, and we've had to move a lot of those things out, when you had an opportunity to see the collection of things that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum had that in and of themselves could be their own museums, is pretty powerful. But the thing that always strikes me is just the number of trophies from back at the turn of the century when motorsport just started all the way up through to today it's pretty impactful to see all those and to understand where our sports come from.
But no specific item that, you want to reveal.
There's not really
like a crown jewel, maybe.
There's not really a specific item in there that I would say that is something that folks haven't seen. I mean, the most important stuff ends up on the floor and the Borg Warner Trophy and some of the cars and some of the artifacts that were related to some of the early drivers. So there's not one thing that I'd say, oh, this is the thing that we have to hide and nobody's able to see.
All right. I'm going to test you now to see how well you know your fans, your 350,000 fans. How many beers do you think are sold during the month of May at the Speedway?
So we sell over 25,000 beers during the month of May here. But what's crazier is when you think about, we let our customers bring coolers in. So that's just the beers we've sold here. We've estimated
how many consumed?
In terms of beers consumed here, it could be as much as 4 times that at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in May. So it is an absolute ton of beer.
Indianapolis and Indiana are known for their tenderloins. How many tenderloins do you think you sell?
We sell thousands of tenderloins. I don't know the exact number of tenderloins. Is
that the top item?
What's that?
Do you think that's the top item compared to the hamburger and the hot dog? Or
it is our signature item. It's probably a little less than our hot dog. I can't remember how many. I think we can take hot dogs end for end and wrap the Indianapolis Motor Speedway like 7 times the number of hot dogs that we sell in the month of May. But the tenderloin is definitely our signature. There's another thing that's sort of popping up on our radar. There's these amazing shish kebab, steak on a stick that a lot of our fans now are making part of their tradition as well.
Where is the best seat to watch the Indianapolis 500?
One of my favorite things about talking to those customers every night, when I get a chance to ask them where they sit, is hearing why they think they have the best seat in the venue. And it doesn't matter where they sit, because so much of it is about the memories and who brought them and how long they've been there and where they park. So our fans, no matter where they sit, believe they have the best seats in the house. And I think at some level, the experience is so different from each one that's absolutely true. My seats, I've got 8 seats in B Penthouse, which is just before you come into turn 1 on the outside of the racetrack. I think the best place to see the entire place, see pomp and circumstances somewhere along the front stretch, likely in turn 1.
People keep their tickets forever. You can inherit them. And what's the secret? Is there a secret that you could reveal? And we won't tell anybody, but what is the secret to getting tickets to that best seat in the house? Is there anything you could do?
It's about longevity. How long have you been an account holder at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? The longer you've been an account holder, the more likely you are to get seat upgrades and move into some of those seats. So as those coveted seats, the highest up in certain sections become available, they get replaced with people with seniority. And that's why I always tell folks that even if you're still going to sit in the seats of your parents, buy 2 GA tickets every year so that you can build your seniority, so that the day that your parents say, hey, we want to transfer these seats to you, you can then have some seniority, because we don't allow seniority to be transferred. We allow seats to be transferred in some instances, but we don't allow the seniority. So it's important to build your seniority early.
That's a good secret to know. So I hope everyone's listening to that. Okay, last couple of questions. If you could magically invent one thing, magically, poof, it exists, what is it?
A pill that would allow you to not have to sleep so you can stay at the Speedway and work every day 24 hours a day. That for me, especially in May, is I wish there was some way that I could do it with more than or with less than the 3 or 4 hours of sleep I get a night. I just there's no reason to be sleeping when you could be here getting things ready for the greatest.
The anti-sleep pill. Magically uninvent one thing. Uninvent, poof, gone.
Negative talk for the sake of negative talk on social media. I love critical, folks that think critically and want to help you be better. But what I hate is when people just want to call somebody a name. So if there was a way that there was a magic button that just that said, that's not critical thinking. That's not somebody really trying to make a difference. It's somebody just saying something stupid that's hurtful. And I'd love to see that go away.
And finally, tell us something about yourself that would surprise your friends and family, something they don't know.
I'm pretty transparent with my family, so I think they pretty much know everything. But I think the thing that maybe a lot of my friends and even coworkers, a handful of them know, I've been trying to teach myself, and don't test me on this because I can't do it, but I'm trying to teach myself Spanish. So I'm listening to a Spanish app, try to do it 3 or 4 days a week on my drive in, because so much of our community, Indianapolis community, has Hispanic speaking folks here, especially with somebody like Pato O'Ward as a race car driver here, probably our most popular IndyCar series driver that hasn't won the Indy 500. We see a lot more Spanish speaking folks in this community and at the racetrack. And I took it all through high school and in college, and I basically forgot everything. So I'm trying to get back to the point where if there was an issue in the ticketing department, the ticket team could pick a phone up and call, and I could at least navigate ourselves through something. So that's probably the thing that a lot of people don't know about me. And if I had those 3 hours I didn't have to sleep in the night,
you could be studying Spanish.
Spanish a lot quicker.
There you go. Doug, thank you so much for joining us on the Future Car Podcast. I'm going to leave you with gracias and adios.
Adios.